You know what's wild? The average American spends more on their car each month than they do on groceries. And I'm not even talking about people driving luxury vehicles. I'm talking about your regular Honda Civic, your Toyota Corolla, just normal, everyday cars that we've all been told are essential to adult life. But here's the thing. What if I told you that this one financial decision, the one sitting in your driveway right now, is probably the single biggest obstacle between you and actual financial freedom? My name is Auric, and I spend way too much time thinking about the hidden costs of car ownership. If you're someone who feels like you're doing everything right financially, but still can't seem to get ahead, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. So let me paint you a picture. 3 years ago, I was making decent money, living in a mid-sized city, driving a 2015 Mazda that I'd bought used, nothing fancy. Car was paid off, no monthly payments, and I genuinely thought I was being financially responsible. I mean, Dave Ramsey would be proud, right? No car debt, that's the goal. But then I actually sat down and tracked every single dollar that went into that car for 1 month, and what I found absolutely blew my mind. Look, most people think about car costs in terms of the monthly payment. That's it. You finance a car for $400 a month, you think your car costs you $400 a month. But that's not even close to the real number. According to AAA's 2023 data, the actual cost of owning and operating a vehicle in the United States averages $9,282 per year. That's $773 per month for a medium sedan, not a Tesla, not a BMW, just a regular car. Now you might be thinking, okay, Auric, but you said your car was paid off, so you weren't spending that much. And that's exactly what I thought too, so I tracked it. 1 month, every receipt, every transaction. Insurance was $135. Gas was about $190 because I was commuting 40 minutes each way to work. Parking in my office building was $75 a month. I had to get an oil change that month, so that was another $60. My registration was due, so I divided that annual cost by 12, added $27, and here's the kicker. I had to set aside money for eventual repairs and tire replacements. My mechanic told me I'd need new tires within 6 months, that's $600, so I should be budgeting $50 a month for that. Add it all up, $537 for a car I owned outright. And this is where it gets really interesting. I started asking myself, what am I actually getting for $537 a month? I'm getting the privilege of sitting in traffic for an hour and 20 minutes every day. I'm getting the stress of maintenance schedules and worrying about check engine lights. I'm getting a depreciating asset that loses value while it sits in my driveway overnight. When you really think about it, it's kind of insane. But here's what most people don't realize. The cost of the car is only half the equation. The other half is opportunity cost. That $537 I was spending every month, if I had invested that instead in a basic index fund averaging 7% annual returns, do you know what that would be worth in 30 years? $393,000. Let me say that again. The car I was driving, the one I thought was a responsible financial choice, was costing me the opportunity to retire with an extra $400,000. Now look, I know what you're thinking. Auric, that's great, but I need a car. I live in the suburbs, there's no public transportation. I have kids, I can't just bike everywhere. And I get it, I really do, because that's exactly what I told myself for years. We've built our entire society around the assumption that everyone needs to own a car. But here's the thing, that's a choice we've made, not a law of nature. So I ran an experiment. I looked at my actual driving patterns for 1 month. Where was I actually going? 70% of my miles were work commute, another 15% were grocery runs and errands within 3 miles of my house, 10% were social activities, going to restaurants, visiting friends. The remaining 5% were longer trips, visiting family 2 hours away, weekend getaways, that sort of thing. And that's when something clicked for me. I didn't need a car. I needed transportation solutions for different scenarios. For work, I could take the bus. Yeah, it would add 20 minutes to my commute each way, but I could read during that time instead of white-knuckling through traffic. For groceries and errands, I could bike or walk, and honestly, most of these places were closer than I thought. For social stuff, I could combine ride shares with public transit. And for those longer trips, I could rent a car for the weekend, which would still be way cheaper than owning one. I know this sounds radical. Trust me, when I first considered this, I felt actual anxiety. Like, what if there's an emergency? What if I need to go somewhere unexpected? But that anxiety, that's not rational. It's cultural conditioning. We've been taught that car ownership equals freedom and independence in adulthood. But the reality is, for most of us, car ownership equals financial bondage. So I did it. I sold my car. And in the first month, I saved $412. But the changes went way beyond just the money. I started walking more, and I lost 15 pounds without even trying. My commute time actually decreased because the bus had a dedicated lane during rush hour. I was reading about a book a week during my commute. I wasn't stressed about maintenance or repairs or whether that weird noise meant something expensive. I felt lighter, literally and figuratively. Now here's where the psychology gets really interesting. For the first 2 months, I definitely felt some phantom anxiety about not having a car. There were moments when I thought, man, I wish I could just hop in my car right now. But you know what I discovered? Those moments were almost never actual needs. They were wants, driven by convenience. And when I weighed that momentary convenience against $400 a month, the choice became pretty clear. Let me give you some real numbers for my first year without a car. Monthly bus pass, $70. Groceries delivered twice a month instead of weekly shopping trips, added maybe $15 in delivery fees. Ride shares for social activities averaged about $60 a month. Car rentals for longer trips, I rented a car maybe 6 times that year for weekends, so that's about $800 total, or $67 a month. Total monthly transportation cost, $212. Compared to my previous $537, I was saving $325 every single month. But wait, there's more. Without a car, I started naturally spending less on impulse purchases. Think about it. When you drive, you pass by Target, you pass by the mall, you pass by restaurants, and it's so easy to just pop in. But when you're walking or taking the bus, there's friction. You really have to want something to make the trip. My discretionary spending dropped by about $150 a month just from this behavioral shift alone. So we're not talking about $400 a month in savings anymore. We're talking closer to $500, maybe even $600 when you factor in all the indirect benefits. Over the course of that first year, I saved $7,000 more than I had budgeted for. That money went straight into my Roth IRA and my emergency fund. For the first time in my adult life, I had 6 months of expenses saved just from not having a car. Here's what most people don't realize about financial freedom. It's not about making more money, although that helps. It's about questioning the assumptions we've been taught about what we need and being willing to redesign our lives around what actually matters to us. I used to think I needed a car because everyone has a car, but what I actually needed was freedom from the stress and expense of car ownership. So now look, I'm not saying everyone should sell their car tomorrow. If you live in rural Montana, this probably isn't realistic. If you have 3 kids and you're shuttling them to soccer practice and piano lessons, I get it. The math might be different. But here's what I am saying. Most of us have never actually calculated what our car really costs. We've never seriously considered alternatives. We've never questioned whether this massive monthly expense is actually necessary or just habitual. So here's my challenge to you. Track your car expenses for 1 month, every dollar, gas, insurance, maintenance, parking, tolls, everything. Then track where you actually drive. How many of those trips could be accomplished another way? Not necessarily easily, not necessarily conveniently, but could they be done? Because here's the thing, we're not comparing car ownership to a perfect alternative. We're comparing it to financial reality. Is the convenience worth hundreds of dollars a month? Maybe it is for you. That's totally valid. But make it a conscious choice, not a default assumption. And if you're sitting there thinking, you know what, maybe I could do this, let me give you some practical steps. Start small. You don't have to sell your car immediately. Try going 1 week using only alternative transportation. See what it feels like. See where the pain points actually are versus where you just think they'll be. Then try a month. If it works, great. You can sell the car and pocket the savings. If it doesn't, you've learned something valuable about your actual transportation needs, and maybe you can downgrade to a cheaper vehicle or reduce your usage. The other thing I'll say is this. Going car-free isn't just about the money, although the money is significant. It's about reclaiming time and mental energy and physical space in your life. I don't think about oil changes anymore. I don't stress about parking. I don't sit in traffic getting angry at strangers. I read, I think, I walk. I'm present. That might sound cheesy, but it's real. 3 years later, I've saved over $21,000 in direct transportation costs. That money has gone towards investing, towards building wealth, towards creating actual financial security. But more than that, I've saved probably hundreds of hours that I would have spent driving, maintaining, and worrying about a car. I'm healthier, I'm less stressed, and I'm more intentional about where I go and why. So yeah, going car-free saved me $400 a month, but really, it saved me a lot more than that. It saved me from the trap of thinking that financial responsibility means doing what everyone else does. It taught me that real wealth isn't about having stuff, it's about having choices. And it proved that sometimes the most radical thing you can do is question the thing everyone assumes is normal. If this video made you think differently about your relationship with your car or money in general, do me a favor and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And if you want more content about questioning financial assumptions and building real wealth, you know what to do. Subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you in the next one.